Hello everybody and welcome back, and I've got a new ship review for all of you, and this time it's going to be the new U.S. Tier 7 Premium Cruiser, the Indianapolis. Finally! If you were a U.S. cruiser player and you've been dying for a new cruiser to play with, that's a premium and that's not named the Atlanta, well, here she is. But is she any good? So, what I will be doing during this episode is taking a look at the ship in port from the port view, looking at her stats, and anything I particularly would note while I'm still in the port view, and then I'm going to take into battle and actually try her out. And of course, once I've done all that, I'll give you my final impressions and tell you whether this is a valuable ship to add to your fleet or not. I have to add this in before I actually get this video uploaded. I've done the rest of it, and I have to put this in because there is a possibility right now that there is actually a bug with the Indianapolis's armor. So do keep in mind that everything I say during this particular review video is still subject to change. And in the event it changes, I will of course make a small video to update you all on the status of the ship. So do keep that in mind. That is because an SEA streamer who also streams on NA by the name of Siki came to me and raised the issue about something that he discovered with regards to the Indianapolis's armor. I will explain that in the battle section, so do keep your ears open for that. Alright, so when you first see the Indianapolis in port view, she appears to have pretty solid stats all around. Her HP at tier 7 is fine. She has a little bit more HP than a stock Pensacola. She has a little bit less HP than the fully upgraded Pensacola hull. Her armor appears to be vastly superior, from 16mm to 146mm. But the number there is somewhat deceptive. If you look at it, the ship has what appears to be a minimum of 16mm of armor. Except on the Indianapolis, if you look at it from the front, it is very, very, very well angled. So up front, the only way you're going to get through the Indianapolis's armor is if you have a gun caliber larger than 227mm, which puts it squarely in the range of battleships. So if you're in a battleship, you can overmatch the Indianapolis's very, very angled bow armor. However, if you look at the stern, you'll notice the stern has some angling, but it's not as drastic as the bow. And what I found is that pretty much everything goes through that stern section. So if you were in a Russian destroyer with the high velocity 130mm guns and you get close enough, you'll go right through there and go hit the citadel. 152mm will pen. The 203s will pen. The stern is not very durable, which means that if you're in Indianapolis, you do not want to be showing your stern to anything. You want to try to point your bow at stuff. Some people might have looked at the Indianapolis and said, well, if you angle it, it looks like there are certain rather flat areas on the Indianapolis, namely areas behind the second turret. There may be these middle sections where it's really flat. What if you could maybe get citadels from there? Tested it out. No, those are just empty penetration boxes. You can get penetrating hits, but you're not going to get citadels to it. Although, strangely enough, in the middle, and in very, very weird circumstances, where if you have your turrets pointing a certain direction and a shot goes in the right way, you could disable the number 2 turret coming from this angle, shooting at the middle there. It's rare, but it does happen. And if you shoot at, like, let's say from this angle, yeah, this angle, sometimes you'll hit the number 3 turret, which is all the way back here. It's weird. There's some sort of weird shell travel. Maybe there's an ammo storage here somewhere, but it is possible to disable it. However, in most cases, if you're fighting cruisers and below, and you present them with sort of a bow-on profile, they're going to struggle to penetrate your armor, and you're going to see a lot of shots bounce. However, once you move up from cruisers to battleships and you're dealing with battleship caliber guns, then the Indianapolis really begins to struggle. Her armor cannot resist firepower of that magnitude, and she will get wrecked. So when you're playing the Indianapolis, one of the things that you're going to realize really quickly is you do not want to get into a pissing match with a battleship. So, now that we know about the Indianapolis' protection and the fact that it's not that great, does she have any redeeming features at all? The Indianapolis' one strong point is her guns. The Indianapolis at Tier 7 has these 203mm 55 caliber Mark 14 Mod 1 guns. And if you look at these guns, they're basically the New Orleans guns. In terms of rate of fire, it's 15 seconds, which is very standard. In terms of max HE damage, 2800, pretty good. Chance of fire is base 14%. However, if you get the Demolition Expert, it goes up to 17%. But where the Indianapolis shines is actually its armor piercing. Max AP damage is 4600. Initial AP shell velocity is 853 meters per second, which is a bit better than the HE, so that means the two arcs are going to be a little bit different. But the armor piercing is what I want to talk about. It goes out to 16.9 kilometers, and they do have pretty solid penetration. And they do pretty good damage. Yesterday, during a couple of the battles I tried out, when I caught a battleship giving me a broadside, even though you're not really supposed to fight battleships, I was supporting a team. Anyways, 2 front guns only, so that's 6 shells, hit the side of a battleship, which was being flat to me, around 5,000 to 6,000 damage, a salvo. That is good damage if you happen to be playing a cruiser. So the Indianapolis has these really, really, really nice guns, and that is the best thing about her. How do I compare her in terms of playstyles? I tried her yesterday, and one of the first things I sort of realized is, oh, she plays like a Molotov. She is glass everywhere, but she is pretty good at fighting other cruisers, and she's okay killing destroyers and things like that. Molotov playstyle. Hide behind larger ships, use your guns to lend supporting fire. Moving on to the AA. Secondary armament, okay, it's 127mm guns, 8 of them, 8 single mounts, so nothing really special there. AA, very standard. Basically identical to an upgraded Pensacola when it comes to AA. I think she has like one extra 20mm gun because she's got the dual mounts. She's got 8 of them. So she's got the same number of 40mm guns, got the same number of 127mm guns. So Indianapolis AA is sort of, it's okay, it does its job. It's a U.S. cruiser at that tier, it'll do its job. It's nothing to write home about though. Definitely not like the AA of, let's say, the Atlanta. Maneuverability also super standard. Compared to an upgraded Pensacola, the upgraded Pensacola has slightly better rudder shift, but in terms of max speed and turning circle radius, identical. 32.5 knots is a very standard speed. Turning circle radius 620 meters, very standard. Rudder is a little bit slower than the upgraded Pensacola, but it's still okay, 7.3 seconds. Concealment is good. Once fully decked out with camo paint and concealment expert, 11.8 kilometer detectability by sea, 7.1 detectability by air. I do have to make one thing clear though. If you're playing the ship and you don't have a captain with concealment expert, you might suffer a little bit. She's glass. Once the battleships know that, they will fire at you. So you might want to think about getting a captain that's getting close or maybe has a skill ready before you decide to put them onto the ship. She does really need that extra bit of stealth. The Indianapolis does have one thing that makes her special compared to the other tier 7 cruisers, and it has to do with her consumables. Indianapolis has radar. It's not a very long duration radar, 25 seconds only, which is basically the duration of a lot of the Russian radars. Ship acquisition range 8.49, so she's got like U.S. acquisition range, kind of a weird hybrid radar here, but it tells you sort of everything you kind of need about the Indianapolis. The radar isn't supposed to be the amazing radar that some of the other later tier ships get, but you can surprise destroyers at the lower tiers. If they decide to sit in smoke and decide to camp corner, hoping to get an ambush off, your radar is going to do a lot of good. The other thing about the radar is it's short duration, which means that suggests to you that the point of the Indianapolis is to stay with a fleet of ships, and if you do use your radar and you do catch something, you have a whole fleet of ships to support you with their fire. Because remember, other than that, you're only going to get off maybe 2 salvos before your radar runs out. That's not really a lot of shells to put out to really hurt destroyers. So you do need to be with a fleet of ships here. She does have access to a catapult fighter, so you can replace radar for catapult fighter. And she does have hydroacoustic search, which you could swap out defensive A for, although it's a U.S. cruiser, so I wouldn't recommend it. In terms of recommended upgrade modules, I would say get the main battery modification 1, get gun fire control system modification 1, although you can swap that for AA guns modification 2, get Damicon modification 1, and get steering gears modification 2. In terms of recommended captain skills on the Indianapolis, I would say get situational awareness, expert marksman, vigilance, get demo expert, you want that extra chance to set stuff on fire, and the all-important concealment expert. Once you're done those 15, you can opt for anything else you really want. You could get things like incoming fire alert. You could get basic firing training. Incoming fire alert would actually be quite useful for this particular ship because you really need to be alert for when battleships are shooting at you because you're really, really, really easy to citadel. So now that we've gone over the ship in port, let's take a look at how she performs in battle and pay attention to how I play her. She's going to look very similar to the Molotov's playstyle. Alright, now, before I talk about the battle, I have to talk about this armor issue. Because if the armor issue is real, and it is something that Wargaming will fix, there's a good potential the Indianapolis will turn into a very, very different ship. However, if Wargaming doesn't fix it, then the Indianapolis will sort of have to be played a lot like a Molotov. In fact, even a little bit more carefully than a Molotov. And sort of this battle is pretty much a good showcase of how you would have to play the Indianapolis in its current form with this potential armor bug. By the way, it's not confirmed yet. I have sent the report up, but who knows, right? Again, like I mentioned earlier, if there is a change, I will be the first one to let you guys know. All right, now, the bug right now is this. As a heavy cruiser, you should, in theory, be immune to destroyer high explosive. I mean, that should be self-explanatory. But weirdly enough, on the Indianapolis, if a Bliskovica, and you can give it a broadside, let's say you give it a broadside, a Bliskovica shooting high explosive under your turrets can actually get citadels with high explosive. So that's a bit weird. I think that might really be an issue. So we'll have to see. If Wargaming says, no, this is working as intended, this is how the ship is supposed to be, then okay, then you're going to have to follow this style of play that I'm going to show you here. In the event that it changes, then of course I'll have to have another video where I'll be like, this is how it changes from before to now. And so, keep your eyes open for that potentially. All right, so onto this battle. If the Indianapolis were to stay in its current form, which is this just absolutely paper armor, this armor that in most cases against battleships and stuff just doesn't seem to exist, you have to play it like a second line support ship, very much like the Molotov. Your guns, remember, aren't as fast reloading as the Molotov, so you do really have to make your shots count. But they do the damage. They really are capable of hurting enemy ships. So take a look at my position. I am behind sort of everybody. I am way behind everybody, and the goal is eventually to have all of my cruisers and all of my battleships sort of be into the fight already with the enemy team on the 2-3 line. And my job is basically to sneak up somewhere behind them, let them take all the shots, but sit there and lend supporting fire, because the Indianapolis isn't a frontline ship. I put the ship on the front line and I'm back to port. It's just, if some battleship decides they're going to delete you because you're on the front line, you're going to get deleted pretty quickly, because this cruiser doesn't take battleship shells very well. Anyhow, unlike the Russian cruisers, American cruisers always have that arc. Now, the arc does make hitting shells at range a little bit more challenging. However, the arc also has its advantages. If you sit behind an island, for example, you can lob shells over the island. And if you have a higher arc, it is easier to lob things over. And since the Indianapolis is, as of the moment, paper armor, totally, you kind of want to adopt that kind of playstyle. Hide behind islands and lob stuff. So I'm watching my team head over there and get into a fight with this enemy team. I'm going to basically let them go out there, get into the fighting, and then sneak up behind the island at round G3 and sit there and lob shells at the enemy team. At least that's the plan. I mean, who knows? Plans change depending on what the enemy team does, but at least that's the plan for now. Go over there, stick behind the island, lob lots of shells. Looking at the map, and that's really, really important as well, especially when you're playing these sort of paper cruisers where you need to be in the right position all the time. You have to constantly keep your eye on the map. Be aware where the enemy ships are, know where they're going to be heading, and make predictions. And that's important because if you're in the wrong position with these kinds of ships, you get caught out and you get wrecked. The Indianapolis, I did say that she had really, really good guns, right? So against cruisers, you can pretty confidently fight them in one-on-one scenarios. Your armor piercing, if they give you a broadside, even if they give you something that's a little angled, your armor piercing can hurt them. I don't know what happens to that one, RNG. RNG, the gracious god of world warships. So yeah, my first salvo didn't seem to do anything. The second salvo, I think, actually did quite a bit better. Yeah, there we go. There's 11,900 damage. Double Citadel. Miyoko offering a bit of a broadside. Fire. Okay, a couple shells clear the island. That's good. And there's another Citadel for 8,000 damage. So very, very, very nice guns. Nice and punchy. They do good damage. All right, so here, taking a look at the map real quickly. Miyoko heading towards F3. Looks like it's going to come out from that area. Battleships are coming down around the 1-2 line. I don't really want to fight battleships. Yeah, my AP can still do some damage to them, but I don't want to fight battleships. They're not fun, especially right now when your armor is paper. If battleship looks at you the wrong way, you dead. You really, really, really dead. So instead of fighting battleships, I look at the Miyoko and I go, I'm going to go fight you because you're the better target to fight. Again, watch how I approach this Miyoko fight. Bow in, and I'm going to make it as hard for the Miyoko to hit me as possible. And if he does hit me with armor piercing, hopefully it bounces. 5 hits, 5,700 damage. Shots went a little high. That happens. That's the thing. That Miyoko hit me with HE. That just seemed to penetrate. Almost the same amount of damage that I was able to do to the Miyoko on a broadside, he was able to do to me while I was pretty heavily angled, bow in, with high explosive. So this could be something that is not intentional. So I'm praying right now that this is something that gets fixed. Because if it gets fixed, I think the Indianapolis can be a really, really good ship for tier 7. If it's not fixed, then dicey situation there. So looking at the map again, I'm seeing that the enemy team has made a bit of a small breakthrough on the 8 line. There's one cruiser way ahead of his battleship, knowing that they're not really going to be supporting each other. So I'm going to start heading that direction. Again, keeping track of the Miyoko, knowing exactly where he is. Salvo out, and Miyoko's going to be deleted right there. Gone. Double Citadel. Okay. Priority now is dealing with that enemy push. I want to deal with the Omaha if possible. Although if it's not possible to deal with the Omaha, I want to deal with possibly the New York. There is a Pensacola ahead of me, so again, I'm in a position where I'm the second line ship. I need the Pensacola to be in front, and if the New York decides to shoot at one of us, it'll be the Pensacola first. Part of the way of playing these really sort of glass cannon ships, you're really treating your team as expendable targets. That sounds terrible, but it's kind of what you're doing. You're just like, here's a sacrificial lamb. Shoot the lamb first. Let me then pummel you to death. So, New York decides to shoot at the Pensacola. Fantastic. Pensacola took Citadel hit. Okay, fantastic. Opening fire at long range. Indianapolis does have very, very good range on its guns. So, opening fire, and gonna do some damage. Pensacola's like, nope, retreating. Of course, here is where things go a little bit iffy. I wasn't in the best of positions. I was in a spot where if I kept turning, I would have run into the island, giving the New York a very, very easy shot. So here's where things get dicey. When you decide to go aggressive and you decide, because of reasons, to take the lead. And so I go from the second line support ship behind the Pensacola to, oh yes, the front line ship. So with my really paper armor, what can I do? What is my weapon? The only thing you can really do is baiting with speed. So what that means is, I'm going to watch what I do. I'm going to try to sail in one direction, and I'm going to sail in that direction, and I'm going to wait until I'm mentally keeping track of roughly how much time is passing between the New York salvo. And you'll see what I do is I'm going to go in this one direction. All right, look, New York, you're going to shoot at me over here, all right? And then, as soon as I think roughly this is the time the New York is going to shoot, I'm going to hit on the brakes, and I'm going to turn my ship the other way. And I'm going to try to get the salvo from the battleships to go the other way. Really the only thing you can do. Now, luckily, I've got team support. So even though I'm in the lead, at least I'm getting help. Which means that with help, we can at least kill this New York before we can get another salvo on me. So I didn't really have to take too many salvos from the New York. Had the New York only had me to deal with, I think you would have killed me, because battleship AP, yeah, it's painful. Alright, so enemy Omaha, yeah, really, really bad situation. Just gone. There's just no real chance of the Omaha surviving an engagement against an Indianapolis. Like, yeah, you might get away with a little bit here and there, but eventually, you know, the Indianapolis will get you. 203mm shells are pretty deadly against Omahas. So, taking a look at the situation on the world map, we had a really, really ballsy destroyer. Went all the way to their cap, got on the cap, installed the team, and that destroyer, if you think about how long he stays on cap and blocks their cap, actually sort of ends up winning the game for us, because by being on the cap for that long, it prevented the enemy team from getting any cap points, and those cap points are really, really important. On our side, we've got a battleship and supposedly 4 more cruisers. Except if you look in, oh, I don't know, J2, heading right for the corner. That's a Pensacola. No idea what was happening there. Disconnect? Maybe bot? Maybe, I don't know. But we basically lose the Pensacola. So, oh, and there goes our destroyer. So it's basically right now 3 cruisers and a battleship against 2 battleships, 2 cruisers, and a destroyer. So not good. Not good, especially because we only have a New York and they have 2 New Mexicos, and those New Mexicos are really healthy. So we have to play this smart. Take a look at the time, take a look at the map, and go, all right, we're going to group up here. The enemy team have to come for us. We're this many points ahead, so there's no point for us to be rushing up there. It's better to play a little bit more passively. Just sort of hold back, pick them off one at a time, and the New Yorks are going to take a really long time to get here because they're slow battleships. So for now, we have a small advantage. Let's try to maintain it. So instead of running out there, I sort of decide to stay here. I am being spotted, so I was thinking, could this be like a destroyer somewhere? So I popped radar. Could have saved it, I think, could have saved it. But I had to make sure there was nothing at least around us immediately, and did a quick radar sweep, nothing. So destroyer's probably hiding someplace else. Don't know where, but as soon as I hit behind the island, spotting stopped. So my guess was probably behind the island at around sort of F5-6 right there in that little island there. There was probably a destroyer there. Can't be sure, but yeah, who knows? Maybe, right? And here's where things start to sort of, for the enemy team, kind of break down a little bit. They start to break apart. Remember the Russian cruisers? They're really good speed, and I said that's always a double-edged sword. Yeah, yes, you can shift quickly, but for a lot of people, if you just sort of increase speed and then forget about it, you quickly outrun your team, and this Shores is going to find that out very quickly. And you'll see. right here by now who's with the shores. Battleships are still way back there, so shores is basically alone. There's the Mutsuki. Alright, so I figured he was sort of hiding there because I'd fallen off of spotting when I went behind the island. But no way for me to really hit him. And my radars are cooldown. And there's the smoke. Oh, by the way, one other thing. When I do these ship reviews, these early sort of premium ship reviews, one of the rules is I can't use premium consumables. So, you know, once you pop radar, it's going to be quite a while before you get it back. Anyways, Shores is giving me a very, very narrow target to shoot at, so I go ahead and I shoot the Atlanta. Random Citadel. Don't hit anything else. The Indianapolis, if you sit bow in like I am right now, just perfectly bow in, not giving the sight at all, you're somewhat tanky. You're somewhat tanky. You can sort of sit here and tank some hits, and in this case, that's what I'm doing. I'm letting the Shores spend his time sort of shooting at me, but now presenting his side to the other ships on my team. New York really could have just gone a little bit the other way and not come across this way, because by coming this way, he's now inadvertently giving himself oh yeah, he's giving the Shores a torpedo target. And there goes my salvo. That didn't kill him. I have some of the best RNG in this game, I swear. Alright, so we lost the cruiser to the destroyer. We killed their Shores. Look at the map and I'm like, huh, the New Mexico is still really, really far behind. Look at that. And I look at the time, there's only 4 minutes, and I'm like, okay, team, instead of chasing, instead of doing other things, let's just survive for 4 minutes, because we're ahead. We're ahead by, I think, 102 points. Let's not get ourselves killed. Let's have them come towards us. And there's a hit on that Atlanta over there. Confederate. At this point, I have to think about the map and the situation on it right now. And this is what I mean by playing situational awareness all the time. You got to look at the map and got to be like, I got to be in a certain place. For me, I'm thinking, okay, the New Mexicos can't make it here on time. The Atlanta seems to be running away because the Atlanta cannot take down an Indianapolis, a Cleveland, and a New York without battleship support. Atlanta's not coming back here. The New Yorks, not the New Yorks, the New Mexicos were really, really far away. The only ship that can potentially screw us right now is that destroyer, because what their destroyer can do is cap block us for about 3 minutes. And if he blocks us for 3 minutes and we gain no points, there's a good chance we lose. So, even though I don't know where the DD is, I'm making the move based on what's most likely to hurt us. So, heading back to cap. 2 minutes on the radar cooldown. There's just over 2 minutes and 40 seconds left. So in the event that I do run to destroyer here, then in about 2 minutes time, if I can stall him that long, I can pop radar, maybe we can kill the destroyer, and hopefully things will be okay. But luckily for my team, destroyer doesn't really think this far, and destroyer's gone to chase. There he is. He went to chase something. I don't know why he's chasing something with 2,000 HP left in a Mutsuki, but he decided he wanted to chase something. So this battle ended in a win. So awesome. And if you think about it, it was really sort of it's a bit of strategy, you know, doing the right thing instead of rushing up and getting killed. Oh yes, and of course our Pensacola is all the way in the J1 corner doing God knows what. So let's go back and of course answer the $1 million question. Is the Indianapolis worth it? In its current form, with the wonkiest of armor situations right now, my answer is no. I would pass on the ship. I mean, even someone like me really at times did not like the ship. It was just really annoying to get into a situation where you're just like, I'm going to have no armor. That ship is going to shoot at me and I'm going to get citadel. I'm going to die. It's just that terrible feeling, and the ship is completely unforgiving in its current state. So if nothing changes, unless you buy it for the historical aspects of the Indianapolis, otherwise if you're just looking for a tier 7 U.S. cruiser, I would pass. However, if the armor gets fixed and her armor actually becomes reliable, then I would say absolutely go for it, because her guns are phenomenal. and everything else is pretty solid. It's just the wonky armor. So we'll have to see what happens. Of course, if Wargaming does end up fixing the armor, I will definitely make another video to update you all about the Indianapolis, and then I will let you know my suggestion whether to get it or not. And that pretty much does it, because battle's over. I actually did reasonably well. Oh yeah, one little update also about things. My internet, 2.5 weeks after I think I first realized there was a problem, there's still a problem. If you take a look at my ping, you'll see how it just fluctuates like crazy. I'm getting like 30, 30, 30, and then boom, like 200 ping. And so it's driving me kind of crazy, but I mean, who knows? I mean, I've sent off another ticket today with the ISP. They said, you know, they'll get somebody to look at it. So crossing my fingers and hoping for the best. And finally, of course, one last thing to look at, of course, the results screen. In this particular battle, even with a really, really wonky setup and armor and everything, I did okay. 10 Citadel hits, Confederate 72 target hits, 2 ships destroyed, top of the team in base experience, about, I think, 92,000 damage. Anyways, folks, hopefully I've given you some insights into the current state of the Indianapolis, and I'll update you if anything changes. Anyways, folks, I hope you have a fantastic day. Take care, and I'll talk to all of you again soon.